Well, thank you to everybody for very, very generous comments and comparing the book to books that are much above my book. I would like to comment on Luke's point, because I really think in some ways you make the point I wish to make. And that is that the Sabbath has meaning. And if it doesn't have the right sort of portfolio of meaning, it really defeats its purpose. It isn't self-evident what is the meaning of the Sabbath. And you're reminding the Seventh-day Adventist community of Adventist participation on the wrong side in Germany is really to show that sort of a doctrinal or whatever it was that drove the Adventist conviction was entirely inadequate. So there is lost meaning to the Sabbath for the Sabbath keeper too. And I think your point that might have seemed a bit jarring here, in some ways, is a point that we should welcome and really should ponder, because it needs the Sabbath to do its work and to benefit us. We have to study what meaning it should have. So for the others, I just say thank you.
Luke, would you like to respond?
When I grew up, I heard a lot about the persecution that was coming, that the United States government would join forces with the papacy to enforce the Sunday law so that Sabbath keepers would be forced to flee to the hills where they would be pursued and hunted down, and many would suffer and die. And this is said in part about the United States of America, which has afforded more religious freedom and religious toleration than any nation in history. And as a Jew, I think back to the persecution complex that I grew up with as an Adventist. Every time I've been to a Seventh-day Adventist church, which is hundreds of times in my life, I've never noticed any security guards out front. Seventh-day Adventists don't have to protect themselves from evil people who want to wipe them out. If this was a Jewish gathering, we'd have a security guard here, have security guards out there, have security guards here. In all likelihood, you would have to go through a metal detector to make sure no one was trying to smuggle in a bomb. That's real persecution. Right now, morally speaking, this is 1939. Ahmadinejad is Hitler. He's got a bomb, almost, that could wipe out half of my people. I plan to move to Israel one day. My survival of the nation and of Israel is at stake. And singing songs about the Sabbath and weaving beautiful tapestries about the Sabbath, I'm not sure how much moral significance is there. What individual salvation is to you, the very center of your religion, individual salvation to a much, much better world, fear of genocide is to us Jews. So genocide is very real. We primarily think about the threat of genocide against ourselves. We're also concerned about the threat of genocide against other people. If we were doing something morally serious here today, there would be a security guard here and here and here, because you can often find much more moral clarity from evil people. I've spent much of my adult life writing about people who do very bad things. And they often have much more moral clarity than people who do good things. So people who do evil know who they have to kill in order to be able to keep doing evil. They know they have to kill Jews. That's the burden of being God's suffering servant in history. As we say Purim, the Passover, every generation of non-Jews rises up to slaughter us. And unless Sabbath keeping leads to a quantum moral change in the behavior of non-Jews and in their opposition against genocide, then I just see it as more empty, beautiful words.
And that's, I think I hear Sigve saying something very much like that, namely that celebrating the Sabbath is not merely a matter of honoring one day, but it's really also to understand God as God truly is, humans as humans truly are, and what our obligations to each other are, so that the Sabbath is far richer and had, maybe I can defend the thesis that if Christians were keeping the Sabbath, there would not have been a Holocaust. If I can stipulate that by keeping the Sabbath, I mean the whole range, the whole portfolio of meanings that about which Sigve has spoken, I'm not sure how one could do the evil things Luke has mentioned if the whole portfolio of meanings to which Sigve points had been understood and lived. Anybody else want to comment on this?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
One assumption that is made in many places, and I think Luke has made it, and I think that his commitment to the Jewish community has followed through on that, and that is to say that of all categories of meaning of human existence, morality trumps everything. It trumps a sense of God's presence. It trumps certainly ritual. And it seems to me that religious experience is complex and rich. And to say, well, if the Sabbath is just singing songs and feeling good about God, but it doesn't do something significant and dramatic about morality today, then what's the point? Forget it. And it does seem to me that in religion we have a lot more than just morality.
Okay. Adina, you're nodding. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I kind of agree, because I don't think that these issues are so firmly black and white. So, like, you can't attribute, let's say, there's no direct link to someone's observance of Sabbath and then their actions. I mean, you can't say that one thing necessarily led to another, and so I feel like you're drawing these links that aren't there, and you see amongst every group that they do bad things, and you can't say that 70% of their life was bad, 30% of their life was good. I think we're just so nuanced that you can't be like, oh well, he keeps the Sabbath, but he doesn't do such and such, and so therefore he's bad, and everything he's doing is hypocritical. I just think that you can't judge somebody on those issues entirely. I mean, you're kind of making yourself a bit godlike in this sense too, and that seems to me like you're not coming from the right place either, I